we have our last week of guest professionals for this year's industry session. And I want to just take this time again to thank Candice for helping curate these conversations and ADU as well for coming in to moderate. But with that being said, I'll just turn it over to Candice.
Hey, Skylar. Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for having us again. I'm so glad to be here. Really quickly, Skylar, are we recording this session?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Perfect.
All right. Well, welcome back. I'm excited to introduce AD and Carmen Rodgers, who's going to be joining us today to have a conversation to elaborate on the conversation that you guys just had on Songwriting 101. AD's will be moderating, so I'll allow him an opportunity to say hello to you guys and for Carmen to introduce herself. Hey, Carmen, thanks so much for being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Of
What a
course.
fun story from Audrey about Billie Eilish and
Yeah.
a cool way to close and start the next conversation.
Absolutely. I really love kind of getting that last minute peek into the ending of the class so that I can kind of it sets the tone for, moving into these conversations. And so we're excited to hear from you, Carmen, and learn a little bit more about you. So AD, I'm gonna let you go ahead and take it away. And thanks so much again, Carmen. Oh, and I
Absolutely.
just want to remind everyone that if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat and or raise your hand so that this can be an interactive conversation between you guys and Carmen.
All right, all right. Well, welcome back. Glad to be here again with you. Shout out to Candace and Live Out Live and Skylar of the Grammys, and you guys students for allowing us to pop in on your session and have a conversation on some real life experiences in the world of songwriting today. Again, my name is AD. Currently head of sync at Mass Appeal, also independent music supervisor through Chosen Musicians, and as well as I sit on the board of Live Alive too. So I help out where I can with the nonprofit. So glad to be here in one of these activations. We got Carmen Rodgers, one of a good friend from Dallas, standing a long time. So funny, we ran across each other so many times, but we finally getting more acquainted in these recent years. We ran in the same circles for 20 plus years, and she's always on tour when I'm like at home. So um, but she's worked with a lot of people. So one of my favorite groups, Foreign Exchange, and so I love to, hear more from you. We can start there. We can start at the not there at the Foreign Exchange, but more about where you come from. How did you, where did you start your songwriting career? Your as an artist, songwriter. I know you wrote for many people as well, so we can start there. Share, about your journey and things you're working on, and kind of we can start there.
Yeah. So thank you so much, AD, for inviting me to be part of this. This is super, super cool. It's rare that I get an opportunity to actually share like some of these experiences outside of the stage or outside of the studio. So I appreciate it. So I've been singing and writing and recording and touring professionally for a long time, starting in the early 2000s. Um, and then as a solo artist, I was at the time in Dallas where I grew up and really kind of cutting my teeth as a background singer for an artist named Ndambi, who was just kicking off her independent career after touring for years with Erykah Badu. We all come from the same kind of class in school, and they're a few years older than me, but still kind of the same roots. The Dallas music community is very specific, very close. Everyone has made music together, shared stages together, probably gone to school together or went to school with each other's siblings. From Erykah Badu to Roy Hargrove, rest in peace, to Kirk Franklin and God's Property, to Nora Jones. Everyone is kind of somehow there's barely a degree of separation from everybody that has done this work. And even now, you having Black Odyssey and some of these other newer artists that are coming out and doing really cool stuff here in Texas as well. And Dallas and Houston have worked together over the years too. So there's kind of almost there's a Dallas conglomerate, Houston conglomerate, and then we kind of all Austin, and then we kind of all come together as Texas. But yeah, so I started out solo artist, writing, and then I was touring with Ndambi, started doing my own thing, and then started writing with a band called The Foreign Exchange. And that band consists of the two kind of leads of that band are Nicolay from the Netherlands, as well as Fonte Coleman, who some people may know from Lil Brother and from Questlove Supreme. And so I've been working kind of in that ecosystem now for, I guess, like 15 years. Zoe, who's a multi-instrumentalist and producer, who's worked with Cy Smith and Deborah Bond. So a lot of these are like really kind of prominent soul, R&B, I would say kind of soulful house, electronic artists, and hip hop and jazz. So it's kind of that side of the business that, really strong followings. We got to tour, globally for many years, writing a lot of records with and for one another. Yeah, and that brings me up to more recently, like a lot of people, COVID kind of shut things down for many of us for a while. And so I started doing some online content and doing some of those online shows. But for me, I realized that I wasn't as interested in touring as much as I thought anymore. Touring, if you've ever had the privilege of doing it, it can be absolutely amazing. It can be so, so, so much fun, but it's also really hard on the body. It's very hard on having consistency and discipline. And once kind of COVID sat me down, I was like, I don't know if I want to tour anymore. I still want to make music. I still want to write. I still want to be in the industry, but I did pivot just a little bit. And I wouldn't even call it pivoting. I really kind of expanded and started leaning more into some of the work I've been doing earlier, which was in music and sync and doing some stuff in that space, and then continuing to write for my friends. That's what I consider. I write for my friends. And so last year was a really big writing year for me, writing multiple songs. Wrote 3 of the 4 songs for Fonte's EP, wrote songs for Nicolay's solo project, for Darian Brockington, who's a really popular R&B artist. Geez, I have some stuff that I can't talk about yet because it hasn't.
Oh man, I thought we was gonna get it
I
all.
know. I almost said it. And I was like, oh, I can't say it yet.
All good, all good.
For a very a hip hop group that like historic, who they haven't put out music in a long time, and they're coming back out. And I wrote some stuff and sang some hooks for them. And so I've really just been having fun doing the writing, and then also pitching music and doing some cool stuff for TV and film with Hard Candy. So that's a little bit about me. Sorry if that went kind of all over the place, but to be honest, my career has not been a straight line. And I think that's a lesson in itself, is that it has not been a straight line. And what I've been trying to do is go where the opportunities feel right. And it looks a bunch of different ways. And sometimes it's behind the scenes and sometimes it's on stage. So that's a little bit about
Yeah,
me. Yeah.
but that's good. I want them to hear that scope, because like sometimes in this game, I've learned in music, as you probably learned, the pivot game is strong. You have to know. I think going to my next question is like, what are those key experiences or decisions that help shape your path? Like what are some of those things? Like, because we all been on this road and like, okay, well, should we pivot here? Okay, I don't maybe not want to be an artist, but I love to write. Like, and you chose that route. So what was those key decisions or experiences that helped shape your current path?
I think it's really been about community and collaboration. That has guided me on what my next move is or will be and has been. Collaborating with people that I enjoy doing the work with. And so even when I think about some of the writing that I've been doing, a couple of those writing opportunities came out of me writing for someone else, or, me showing up and writing a hook, me ghost writing for something here and there. When people trust you kind of to do the product, do a solid product, a good product, an excellent product. If they trust you, they'll kind of come back. And so part of my pivoting has really been about, okay, does this feel right? Can I meet the expectation? Can I exceed the expectation? You know, and so I think it's really just been about how can I keep collaborating? Because this industry, especially considering now how we make music, we make music kind of in silos now more than ever.
Yeah.
So many of us have home studios. I'm sitting in my home studio right now, and which means that a lot of times we're working on our own or independently, or we might be working with a producer in another city and they're sending us files and then we're recording. And however, whatever your process is, there's a high likelihood that you are doing a lot of stuff on your own. And so, which wasn't always the case. Used to be a time where you literally go to a studio and hang out and make music for days, hours for days, and watch magic happen out of that. So, because we are creating music differently, I think we also need an opportunity to we're going to have to create that. We're going to have to be intentional about how we create um, and kind of make up those instances so that we can find those bridges. Because I don't know how we can keep this going with everything now being so digital, with everything now kind of being, we're connected online without us being intentional about how we're collaborating, because it's already can be a lonely and isolating experience making music, because we not a lot of us get to do this. And so finding someone that you can do that work with, the work that you enjoy, that's so important. And so I think finding people that you like, what they do, that's going to help, I think, determine what those pivots look like and what those expansions look like. Because you may not even realize you might be a singer who's always gotten music written for you and find yourself in a room where you end up writing and say, whoa, I'm a pretty good writer.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I didn't know this. Or you've been writing all this time and one day someone asks you to demo it, and then they keep the demo because, and they're like, why aren't you doing this more? And you're like, wait a minute, I actually want to create more and not just be the pencil or the pen behind the song. And so I think some of the pivots and expansions come from, it's hard for it to come without collaboration.
Gotcha. Yeah. So let's get down to some of these lyrics and some like just things you've written.
Yeah.
Like what is your favorite lyric you would say that you ever wrote? Like say, man, I'm so glad I was able to like, I don't know why I came up with this at, but like, what is that favorite line or something that you kind of remember in anyone you wrote for your own catalog or someone you wrote for somebody else? Like, what is that? Or do you have a favorite? Or do you know?
You know what? I actually do have a favorite, and it's one of my favorites, and it's a song that I wrote with Fonte for the foreign exchange. And Real People, I don't know if anybody's heard of Real People
Yeah.
out of the UK, picked it up for a project they did, and it's called Shelter. And when we wrote it, I ended up kind of taking the lead on it. Fonte had an idea, but kind of had block. And so I was like, let me go for a ride and I'll come back. I'll come back with the first verse and, you know, kind of the melody. And I took a drive, came back, and that song is now on Spotify, like their number one, the Foreign Exchange is number one played song. It's the number one streamed song. And it's a song that came out when Houston had a flood. And so we ended up getting just a lot of people saying thank you, because the song starts, you want to be more than just a number, but it looks like all the odds are against you. And it goes on and on, it goes on and on again, just basically feeling like things are hopeless. And then the chorus goes, if you think you've had enough, and it just ain't adding up, I'll be right by your side, shelter from the rising tide. Now, when we wrote that song, Shelter from the Rising Tide, who knew that the song would drop and then there'd be this crazy flood in Houston that displaced so many people? And
Yeah, wow.
he actually started getting just all of this crazy response from people that have been impacted by this flood, saying like, thank you, this song really has helped me get through this moment. And now since the song keeps helping people get through these really, really tough moments. So I would say that's one of my favorites that I've written. Yeah, definitely, definitely. It's called.
Yeah. You hinted on some of your that's first of all, that's great, by the way. That's I didn't even know that story. I knew the song, but I didn't know that was part of that kind of that journey on there. But you kind of hinted on some of your like writing process, like you took a drive or you took that space and whatever. Like,
Yeah.
what are some other things you do to kind of getting that writing space? Like, what are some
Ooh,
rituals you have?
I love this question. I love this question so much as I've enjoyed touring and being on stage, and it's again having so much fun, writing is so fun to me. I have so much fun writing. I love being given a task or kind of a prompt and seeing where I can go from there. But one of my other favorite things to do is getting music. If I don't know how many people I can write a melody and then build out from there, or I can get song that is just an instrumental and I can build song from there. Really just however it comes, I can make it work. When it comes to a song that already has music, if there's it's just an instrumental or a track, if you're working with producers, if you're accepting submissions from producers, or you have a producer friend and I have this track, but I don't have a song for it yet. One of my favorite things to do is to get that track and I talk to the track. I say, what are you saying to me?
Interesting.
What are you saying to me? I actually talk to it. I'm like, what are you saying to me? What am I hearing? And then usually I'll sit with it. And then I used to get like words. It'll be like a phrase or a quick word or a couple of words or hmm. And then if it comes with a melody first, I actually lay the melody with gibberish. And with that gibberish, sometimes comes some words. While I'm laying gibberish, a couple of words will come out and I'll say, okay, where'd that come from? Let's build. So that's when I have a track pre-existing. Now, when I'm creating just a song from scratch out of the air, it usually comes with a melody. There's a melody that comes into my head. I get songs in my sleep all the time.
Wow.
So I will wake up and I will wake up and I'll sing immediately. I know how many of you who are songwriters have lost the melody and it's heartbreaking because you remember it being so good, but you don't remember what it was. My recommendation is to start singing it as soon as you wake up. Sing it, sing it, sing it. Get your phone and get your voice memo and sing it multiple times. And if you can, even sing it in like the harmony to it, so that you can go back to it and then use that to help if you don't play instruments and you have to bring in another producer so they can help then build that song with you. Also, I do keep my little writing journal under my bed so that if words come to me, because I do still like the analog process of writing sometimes. I do like typing on my phone, but sometimes writing it is just a different experience. If something comes to me and I will keep it under my bed with a pen. And it's actually a creative process I use for other things too. I have a little journal under my bed because sometimes ideas come when I'm napping, when I first wake up in the middle of the night and I want to have access to something real fast. I actually have a journal under my bed with a pen so that if I have an idea, I just write it down there. So it really depends on kind of how the song comes because it comes in so many different ways. If it's just me needing to apply a melody to something pre-existing, or if it's something just from scratch. But when it's from scratch, my favorite thing to do, that voice memo has so many undone songs that I actually need to, just from this conversation thing, I have so many songs that could be fantastic. I just need to dig back into my voice memos.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting because I think as a business person, I do that for ideas as well, like just different things I never thought of, or even sometimes I'm a creator in my own right. Sometimes I think of a show idea, or because I'm
Absolutely.
not gonna write the script, but I say, okay, this is an idea. Maybe I should write it, but it's just idea written down on it. So yeah, that's very interesting. I didn't know that I know that exists. So that's pretty interesting. So
Yeah.
nah. So there's a lot of songs out there, right? You wrote a lot. We talked about your own favorite. What is a song out there that dang, you was like, dang, I wish I'd have wrote that kind of situation.
Ooh,
Like
let
I
me
have
tell
some
you
in my head. I'm
something.
like, damn, I should have wrote. Why I ain't think of this?
Let me tell you something. There are a few, and honestly, several of them come from the same artist. I think that a lot of us kind of have our artist crush,
Okay.
where it's like that is my songwriting crush. One of my biggest songwriting crushes is Alex Isley.
Wow.
She is the daughter of Ernie Isley, who's one of the famous Isley brothers. He was the guitarist and songwriter for some of the biggest Isley Brothers hits. And his daughter Alex Isley I've watched her career. I remember when she first graduated from US, was it USC or UCLA? I always mix up the two. But I remember when she first graduated and she put out a mixtape. I was just like, who is this girl? Wherever she goes, I'm following her. Her songwriting is really like supreme, and it's sublime. Like her songwriting and her melody writing, like her melodically, it's really, really, it's hopefully we can cuss. It's just hard to fuck with her. It's
Yeah.
hard to fuck with her. And she just dropped an EP, actually, another EP on Friday, but she wrote a song called We'll Always Have Paris. And this is a R&B girl.
Yeah.
She's an R&B girl. These are R&B melodies. However, it's just an elevated, and I hate to say it that way but there's a lot of R&B that is, kind of it's sing-songy, it's almost rap singy where it's not
Yeah.
a lot happening with the melody, but it's fun. It's easy. Hers are a bit more ambitious. Melodically, she's a bit more ambitious. And she wrote a song called We'll Always Have Paris. Um, I feel like I wrote that song in my heart because it reminds me of a breakup that I had literally in Paris.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, how did she write the song for my life? And but she's written a few songs like that. So Alex Isley in general is like my songwriting like melody crush. But We'll Always Have Paris, and I implore you all to check that out. And just check her out in general. That's one that I'm like, damn, I wish
I just went to her Candace and I was just at the EP listening party last week.
uh,
And I said, and Candace always laughing because I'm always in the middle. Every time she sings, I'm
yeah.
front and center because her tone is like healing for me. So, anyways,
Her tone is so healing. Her tone is so healing. So healing. There's a few her songs as well. There's a lot of artists that are really doing cool shit right now that I just absolutely love as far as the writing, as far as kind of the vision of the writing. I always say her name. I don't know if I'm saying her name right. Is it Lizzie McAlpine or McAlpine? But she is, I'm a songwriter's girl. Like you walk me through walk me through a story. Storytelling is my jam. And
yeah.
so songwriters that are good storytellers while using really pretty melodic moves,
Mhm.
I just uh so Lizzie is another girl that I love, as far as she's another kind of songwriting melody crush of mine.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
That's dope though. 'Cause I asked that question because sometimes you get to see your palette of like what are you listening to draw from? Sometimes we
yeah,
draw from a lot of different places, but yeah, Alex Isley, I'm with you on that all the way. Like
absolutely.
it's like that. What is that? I think Into Orbit is like one of my favorite. Like,
Into Orbit is so insanely good.
yeah,
It's just insanely good. That's usually anytime I need someone to get to know Alex, that's the song I send them
yeah,
first.
you got to send that first. Yeah,
And Into Orbit, absolutely.
yeah. We had a question
Sure.
in the chat. I'll go to right quick. It says, what kind of places do you suggest for songwriters in specific to network with people or find your team?
Ooh. So that's a good question. It's so interesting how much things have changed because we're now online so much that it's made the world smaller, but also isolated us more too.
Yeah.
It's really, really unfortunate because there would have been a time where I would say in your city, actually, I still say that. I say, I'm a proponent of if it doesn't exist, make it yourself. I created the very first open mic for singers in Dallas, Texas. So there was an open mic that everybody went to. It was called Reciprocity. It's actually like historic because it's where Erykah Badu like cut her teeth. That's where she would
Yeah.
go. We all went to Reciprocity and we would sing a cappella. We would do our poetry. Somebody might
I
bring it.
missed that era of Dallas. That was Dallas. I missed
It was a very specific era of Dallas. But then I heard about the Black Lily in Philly, which is where Jasmine Sullivan got her start as a kid. Kindred the Family Soul and Jill Scott, all of them were doing the Black Lily. I went and was blown away and was like, Dallas, we need this so badly. And so I created an open mic for singers. I hired a band out of my pocket. And I think the first night, 7 people came. And I built that up, handed it over. And by the end of that era, there would be 200 to 300 people there per night, every week. That's actually how I continue to grow my musical kind of ecosystem and network. That's how I continue to build relationships with the musicians. If you don't already have pre-existing relationships, because maybe you didn't go to a performing arts school, maybe you didn't, maybe you didn't make friends in church who are also musicians. That's a lot of times a lot of people's path, but that's not everyone's path, where you kind of have this built-in situation because you went to school with musicians or you go to church with musicians. If you do, I would always say start in your backyard. So start with your students, with the other students that you've made friends with. Start in your church with the musicians that are already, because most likely if they're playing church music, they also want to do other music. They want to expand as well, and start like building from there. But also, if you don't have open mics in your city, I say create one. Create an open mic, invite people out, find musicians that are there locally and start building from there. I know that sometimes we're looking to work with artists that are already established. That's rare for you to work with an already established artist and then go to that next level. A lot of times you need to build where you are. You got to look across and around and see who else is hungry like you, who else you have chemistry with, who else. I got introduced by hanging out at a studio with a friend to the person that did my first 2 albums. I got introduced to him. He was making hip hop beats for a popular local hip hop act, and he was like, I think y'all might like each other. And he was making these really musical hip hop beats. And I was just like, they're rapping over this. Somebody needs to be writing melodies over this.
Yeah.
We started, doing music together, and he did one of like my biggest songs, which is called It's Me. And so yeah, it's really, I think, and I've heard Issa Rae saying something similar, like, a lot of people are trying to look up to see how they can get up there, and you're not looking around to see who you can build with right at your level. Because what it's a lot of this is going to be about is chemistry. Who can you make good music with that you will be proud of years to come? You got to look around and build that from this way, not up.
Yeah, I totally agree. I believe like open mics has definitely, because I've been to all type. I've been to the R&B, hip hop open mics,
Yeah.
but also there are some singer songwriter open mics where it's just a guitar and a mic, and that's it. There's
Yeah.
a band, it's you and a guitar. Sometimes they just wrote the song and they're trying it out in front of people. Similar
Yeah.
to what comedians go through. And so I think Haley said something about open mics in New York. The only open mic I know in New York is Ray Angry do something on Mondays.
He does producer
Do
Mondays.
some Mondays, and it's a lot of A lot of different ladies go there. I know she mentioned about women being in the room, and I know there's a lot of ladies that go to that. There's a lot of lady singles I know
Yeah,
see there all the
yeah.
time.
So there's a few in New York. There's also one that happens at Valerie Simpson's place, the Sugar Bar. I would just call and find out what the dates are for that. A lot of these suggestions do lean more towards the R&B and jazz side of things, just because that's the music that I do. But there are open mics, and I think doing a search, look for it in your city. And that was Ray Angry is a producer.
Oh,
He's part of the Roots. Ray Angry.
yeah, I spelled it wrong. I was like, what?
He's part of the Roots crew. He's a long time producer and music director, but he has an event he calls it's called Producer Mondays, where
Yeah, it's
he
one of my favorite things when I'm in town. I think it's like
is
in East Village or
fantastic.
something like that.
It's late now, y'all. It doesn't start till late on Mondays, but he
Yeah.
does it like every Monday. But it is a beautiful room to build with other producers, songwriters, and singers in the room. Everybody in there trying to get it.
And there's a lot of students from New School in New
And
York
a lot of
that goes
students
there.
from middle school.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because
Ab-
Ray, he be produced with everybody, Esperanza Spalding and that all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that was some great suggestions. I think it's very important to kind of find your team, but it's definitely organically happens sometimes at an open mic. That's what I've seen a lot of people recreate from a lot of times in most cities. Um, as an independent artist, like you did this game a lot of this rotation of independent artists a lot. What are some challenges or some rewarding experiences from the music industry that you gathered over the years?
Oh, wow. I would say starting with rewarding would really be just like lifelong relationships that I've been able to build. And part of that, those relationships that are both professional, that are now personal, like a lot of them I consider family. And getting to see the world with people that you like is really, really cool. The foreign exchange, we toured for years and some really big, amazing stages and festivals. Everywhere from the Netherlands to South Africa and everything in between. And so being able to have those experiences with now people that you consider family, I think super, super rewarding. You know, I think it's really determining kind of what your why is. Um, really has helped me lean in more on what I would consider rewarding, even though I'm not a household name. Most people on this call have never heard of me and may not have even heard of the foreign exchange, but I've been able to have a really cool and amazing career and meet amazing people globally, that have just impacted my life. I've been able to see the world on my gift, and I love being able to say that and really, be like, dang, this has been a fun ride. Um, I would say the challenging thing would be just the shift of more and more of the work and onus being put on the artists and the singers and the songwriters. um, Being an independent artist, you already didn't have a lot of support. You kind of had to figure it out on your own and wear all the different hats, and you're your own manager, or maybe you have a manager, but you're still your own promo team, and you're your own stylist and your own makeup artist. And every once in a while, you get to bring in some people, but you may not have kind of this established team where you can delegate these things, and that's what they do every single time, because sometimes there's just not enough resource to make sure the people that are supporting you are able to get paid to do this work. And so
Yeah.
take it on for yourself, so that you can continue to do the work and so that you can, pay the bills. Um, so I think that's been one of the biggest challenges. And then watching that shift of, you know, going from artist, a singer, songwriter, recording artist, touring artist, to kind of being forced to be a content creator. I know that that's not something that everybody wants to do. Some people lean in and they realize that they really love it and they're good at it. And content creation requires a lot of consistency. If it's something that is just not kind of your natural habitat, it can be really difficult of a transition to say, all right, I got to post about this. I got to engage with this. And this is the metric and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, when do I create? When do I write? Where do I get my inspiration from when everything is so data driven and metrics driven? So I would say that that's probably been the biggest challenge, is figuring out, we're all trying to figure out how we fit into kind of this new landscape of making music when people don't consume music the same way anymore, and when streaming does not yield the ROI that you are investing in, having the studio equipment, paying the person for this thing and paying for that ad, and getting this new plugin, and all of these financial investments that you're making to grow, to improve, to put out the music, and then you're getting a fraction of a penny per stream. It can be really difficult. And so, which is why I always, I try not to even use the word pivot. And I'm sorry I even introduced it into the conversation. Because I think I do like to say now expansion, because I don't think it's necessarily a pivot that we're having to do. We're having to expand how we create, the areas that we can try to impact, so that we can find opportunities to monetize what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say that's probably one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah, I can say pivot. When I think of pivot, I think of evolve. You have to evolve
Yeah.
your things, because I think, or sometimes you do like me and take a whole nother, like I didn't want to manage anymore, so I kind of took a whole nother. It's so I can understand that expanding, evolving, it makes sense. But for the
Yeah.
record, foreign exchange. If y'all don't know who foreign exchange is, I promise you, do some research. They're one of my favorite bands. I think I discovered them in the 09, 010 era, like 2010 era. I remember working at the Dallas Cowboys, and the whole office, like they put me on. They was from Hampton, so some people from HBCUs,
Yeah.
and I think they was on that market or that scene already before. And I said, who are these guys? Went to the first show at the door,
The door.
the door
Yeah.
in Dallas, and
Yeah.
it sold out. I was like, wait, it sold out? Who
Now,
are?
at the time, was it the door or was it Gypsy Tea Room?
No, it was the door.
It was the door at the time.
It was
Okay.
the door at the time. I remember being the door because
Okay.
it was
Okay.
the big sign and the profit bar was on the other
Oh,
side.
Profit Bar was, yeah.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
remember it being the door by that time, but Gypsy
Yeah.
was before. But yeah, but anyway, so if you don't know them, like they're an amazing group, amazing band. That I didn't even know. I remember Carmen popped on the stage. I didn't know she was singing with them when I went to go see them one time. It was kind of crazy. Uh, but anyways, definitely go see who Foreign Exchange is. They are definitely
Yes, and look it up, and don't forget it's the foreign exchange,
a
because
Foreign Exchange.
that'll separate it from them trying to figure out how to convert money. You send
There it is. My fault. Yes, for
Yeah,
you.
so the foreign exchange, but yeah, I got to join. I joined first quietly as a songwriter, before being asked to start touring and be officially part of the foreign exchange family. And now it's really, the foreign exchange now has really expanded more to the foreign exchange music, where it's a label and we're putting out records and putting out artists and putting out the music of our friends. And so it's been also a cool evolution to see, these two men meet on an OK Player message board,
Yeah,
create a whole album together, y'all.
not even living in the same country.
Not even living in the same country, and hadn't even met yet. They had not met in real life. And so it was very, very cool. That was the origin story of them meeting over. They both had like love for hip hop, but then realizing that they both had love for things so much bigger than hip hop. Just this really like crazy musical palette, and were able to build from there. So that's Nicolay and Fonte. And so they built this whole, now there's a whole the foreign exchange universe of us.
Yeah. And I think it's
Yeah.
cool that you got the opportunity from songwriting. I think that's very important to highlight. Like songwriting can take you anywhere you want, and you travel literally the world with this one band. So,
Yeah, yeah.
um, so if you could collaborate, with any artist, past or present, who would it be and why? Like somebody you've been wanting to work with, besides Alex Isley now. We know it's Alex Isley on the number one.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's very interesting because I think about the people I want to collaborate with are so far from the music that I do. It
That's good.
inspires the music that I do, but they are so far. So there's a few. I would love to be able to collaborate with James Taylor, even if it's just on stage one night. I just him playing guitar, that voice, just again, I'm a singer-songwriter girly. I love a storyteller, and he's one of my favorite storytellers, absolutely of all times. There's a duo called the Landreth Brothers. I'm not sure
Yeah, I think
if
it's
it
elaborate. Yeah.
yeah, so they actually wrote some songs from Bonnie Raitt's last project that that won a Grammy. And I, from the stuff they did for Bonnie Raitt, went down a deep dive, and they just do some really, really cool, like soulful Americana. It's just I can't even describe whatever the genre is. It's just very, very, they're doing some really cool stuff. So I'd love to work with the Landreth brothers. Um, and then as far as kind of in my world, um, D Mile. I know that he's not an artist, but he is one of the greatest producers, I think, of our time. He's the genius behind "On My Mama" by
Victoria
Victoria
Monet.
Monet, which is the big hit.
Yeah.
But he's done some of the most musical things behind India Shawn and Lucky Day and Her and Snow Allegra.
He
Like
also did Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak. The
Bruno
yeah.
Mars, Anderson .Paak, Leave the Door Open. Like all of that is D. Like some of the biggest songs that you love right now in R&B is D Mile. And I got to meet him. I was in LA a couple of weeks ago, and I was at the Clio Soul show.
Oh
Uh,
wow, I live here and I missed it.
yeah, just an incredible, incredible experience. And India Shawn, who's one of my favorite singer-songwriters of this time as well, is um, we ran into each other. We're kind of almost birthday twins too. And she ran over to say hi. And we're talking, and I look behind her. I'm like, is that D Mile? Like, she's like, oh my God, you haven't met him. And so it was such a great opportunity to meet him because we actually have a story for another time of a connection that we had where I got to introduce him through somebody else to the person he's been using for a lot of the strings, is the person that did the strings on my second project. And
Wow.
the strings from my project, my little old project, that's an independent project that, it sold a few thousand, but again, it didn't make a big splash with numbers. But I have a lot of artists that enjoy what I do, and so they fuck with me. And so he did the strings. De La Soul hit me up. My homie Paz hit me up and was like, who did your strings? I introduced him to my guy. He does the strings for the last De La Soul project. Then Sean Martin was like, who did the strings? And he did now I'm telling the story. I didn't mean to, but we're here now. Sean Martin, rest in peace, one of my baby brother who passed away last year. It's like, who did the strings for this project? Oh, Piranha Head. Let me introduce you. So he brings in Piranha Head to do the strings, same person, to do the strings for this gospel artist named Molly Music, who has this song that he's doing with Jasmine Sullivan, who D Mile is the
Did the strings
producer.
on there. Okay.
Yes.
I know what song you're going to. Go ahead.
D Mile was the producer. So Sean introduced my strings guy to D Mile
Wow.
to do the strings for the Molly Music Jasmine Sullivan record. and he loved his work. And so he started bringing him in to do other projects. That's how he ends up doing the strings on the last Victoria, or the last couple of Victoria Monet projects. And now he's starting to do some other work too. And so a lot of the introductions for that particular conductor and strings writer has been through me and my little project. So I I bring up that story to also say you just never know also your impact. And I know that, sometimes it can feel so tough and cumbersome and thankless as a songwriter, especially if you are pursuing strictly a songwriting path and you're not going to be the person that's going to be on stage. You're kind of the king, queen maker, so to speak. You just never know what your impact could be. So
Yeah,
I
that's
encourage you to
amazing.
keep it
Like to
moving.
so
Yeah.
you're literally well on your way to work with D-Mile. That's just gotta happen at this
I'm so close.
point. He used all your strings, guys. So you got
Yes, yes.
uh, well, we come to the point of the time where we can open it up for questions. Love to, if anyone had any more questions or want to raise your hand or anything like that, would love to hear from you now. I know it's a lot of stuff we can go into, but Carmen, you have some dope stories though. Some of this stuff I didn't know, and it's crazy. That's why I moderate some of these things because I want to learn. I want to learn from my peers and friends and just seeing what's going on.
No, what's crazy before you open it up is really that all of us have a story, Some of us just never really get opportunities to share what that story is, and maybe we don't have the platform, and maybe, no one's asked, but I got a story for everything. I've
Yeah,
been
that's why.
in every room. Oh my goodness. Thank you though.
Nah, that's all good. Any questions, feel free. If not, we can move on and keep going.
Go ahead and jump in there, Ron.
Hello, thank you so much, Carmen, for sharing your experience and your story. Thanks to AD for moderating, and Candice for getting all of us connected. Um, Sorry, my camera's kind of not working right now.
We can see you.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Sorry, my screen went black for a second. Um, well, I appreciate you emphasizing collaboration and the spontaneity of these meetings when it comes to growing as a songwriter and an artist. And I was just curious what your advice is on when meeting somebody, putting your best foot forward as far as preparation goes. I've heard that people have like flash drives or CDs or whatever to kind of just, here you go, here's an organized kind of representation of my work. And I wanted to know how you go about that and how you would recommend us to do that.
Yeah, I think people have their different methods of connecting. I've honestly found that the flash drive has not been as effective, only because they get lost.
Mhm.
They are sometimes they're looked at and then tossed into, with other things. I've found that although the response may not be immediate, try to get an email.
Sure.
Try to get an email. If you can't get a phone number, try to get an email and do your follow up and send, 1 to 2. If you can send a link, because a link won't bounce back like a file will, depending on if their inbox is full or da 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 da. Maybe a link and a file, but make it as easy as possible for them to check out what you do. It shouldn't be a lot of hard work, and a lot of times it has to be like what's in front of them at the time. Sometimes that flash drive doesn't make it from the conversation to their car. But that email, it will live there, and even if they don't respond immediately, just do a soft little nudge, a little follow-up, and follow up until you get the response. And also understand that, people are busy, the lives, the ebbs and flows of the creative process. We can go dark. You probably know that as a songwriter. Sometimes you just go so in that you're kind of inaccessible to everyone else. And so also giving people an opportunity time to respond, and being okay that no response does not mean rejection.
Yeah, I could
Oh,
say that.
It just may be about timing.
I'll give you an example, just a quick example about an email or just sending files. Like that's what Mustard did, get that Not Like Us last year. He just sent email. He emailed Kendrick a bunch of files. Didn't even know that song was about to come out. He getting all these text messages the day Not Like Us came out, and he said he's on that song. Did not even know, but he sent an email with a link, and Kendrick just happened to like the song and created to it, and boom. But yeah,
Yeah.
but sometimes you don't even get a response. Sometimes they'll create it and then hit you back for the business. So you just never.
Yep. Absolutely. There's a track that, just because it's a more recent example, that one of my producers had sent to Fonte. And a lot of people, y'all may not know Fonte by name, but he's kind of a big, he's like your rapper's favorite rapper, including he was Drake's favorite rapper. Like Drake tried to
That is
model
true.
his style from Fonte, who's my bandmate. But Fonte, there's a track that we got for a project that he did with a really popular R&B artist named Eric Roberson. Me and Fonte wrote that song. That track had been sitting in Fonte's inbox for 8 years. 8 years he had that track. And he pulled it up and was like, oh, I think I have an idea. And we wrote to it. So sometimes it's also like a timing thing. So I think that sometimes we internalize not hearing back. Don't internalize it. See it almost like salespeople do. When salespeople are dialing for dollars, they're not thinking about who said no or who didn't answer. They're on to the next call, because somebody might circle back later and say, I have a need after all, versus you kind of brooding and being swept away by thinking that person didn't like me. This isn't where I belong. Don't let those quiet times, don't take that as rejection. Do not.
totally. And a follow-up question related to how, everybody has their own lives and response, sometimes takes more time than expected. When you reach out to that person, maybe you send a song, you pitch a song, and you don't hear back for a while, when would you say it's appropriate to kind of try pitching it to somebody else?
I'm always pitching to somebody else.
Okay, okay,
It's not theirs until they do something with it.
totally.
And so don't limit yourself. If there's a conversation where there's a little bit of some engagement, where they said, this is something that interests me. What, maybe you can, hit the brakes before you pitch that elsewhere. But if it's something that you're like, this song, I believe in this song, and I believe in this song for a couple of different people, be okay with that. Be okay pitching it, and it's gonna land where it's supposed to.
Wonderful. Thank you. I just wanted to know the I guess etiquette there, and where where you can bring that song to life in your work. So thank you. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ryan.
Haley, you had a question over there?
Hi, yes, I did. Thank you so much for all your advice. And I can just see like your passion for writing and music through, the way you speak about it. So it's really inspiring. Um, I was wondering when it comes, to being independent artist, you were kind of mentioning um, how, you really have to do everything yourself. And as someone who sometimes struggles with like structure and organization, and I've had representation on the acting side because I have background in that with like a manager and agent, but I have nothing on the music side. And I've heard people say like, oh, you should let managers approach you, you should wait for people to come find you, but also like it would be nice to have a team. So I was wondering what your mindset is with like, reaching out to publishers, managers, like even cold emailing them or finding alumni from your school, whatever, versus
Yeah.
waiting for them to come to you and like doing things on your own first, because it can just be kind of overwhelming. And I guess I still have that idea in my head of like, oh, it'll magically just all become better once I have representation, but it's not like that. So I was wondering what your perspective is.
Yeah, there's so many kind of different paths just depending on what your goal and what your needs are. A lot of the people that you think were able to just reach out and get representation, their parents were representing them already. Their uncle, their cousin in the industry. Like a lot of the people that you're seeing that were able to kind of make some things happen had someone fighting for them on a larger scale. If you're unable to have that, I highly recommend, once again, kind of similar to what I'd said before, is look around. And if you have a friend that you trust, if you have someone that you've done some school with that you're like, I kind of like how they do what they do. I like them as a writer because some of these people, I like their temperament. I think they'd fight for me. A lot of times, and this was earlier in my career when I did have a bit more some support. I had to trust that they could have conversations without me in the room and it represent me well. And so it's kind of connecting with people that you think you can trust and seeing what they're able to do with those small projects you give them, and then maybe look at expanding from there. But I think, cold reaching out to, big names, if you don't have kind of some weight in the game, it's going to be hard to potentially get a response if there's not an introduction, because people's plates are so full, because everyone's trying to figure out how to make this new paradigm of music work. They kind of, if they're already pre-existing and doing something at a level, them taking a chance, if you haven't had a lot of skin in the game, might be a reach for them. But someone who is a peer, someone who is hungry like you, look around and see if you can build your team so that you can move up together. And then as you move up together, when you get those larger opportunities, if you need to bring in additional representation, you can look at that when the time is right. But sometimes right now, what you need more is support, not necessarily a manager. You might need more support than you might need management. But that's something you have to kind of investigate and determine on your own, because I don't know what your path is. I don't know how much you've written. You might have already had a song on a Disney show, and you're just, now you need somebody that's going to help get you to the next level. I don't know what that path is for you. But I just know that a lot of my biggest wins have happened with people that were side by side with me that I was able to put some trust into.
Gotcha. I have a follow-up, but I also want to let Kara talk, so I can always, I don't know if there's a way.
If you know, I would love okay, yeah.
I would say you can put it in the chat and we can go to Kara and then we can go back to your question.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. But thank you so much. That's really helpful and a good way to think about it.
Thank you, Haley, for letting me ask. And thank you, Carmen, for talking to us. I'll try to make it quick. So I know a lot of the stuff, obviously, like with the collaborations over Zoom and then the cold emailing and pitching, a lot of that stuff can be done online now. So it doesn't matter where you are. But still, I wonder if you suggest that we try to move somewhere where more of the action is, like one of those cities. Just because I know I'm from the Bay Area and there's tons of musicians here, don't get me wrong, but any like open mic that I've been to or anything, it feels like I do more like pop music, or that's what I want to do. And I feel like that's not really the vibe here, anywhere that I go here. So I just wondered if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's so interesting. This is a question that will never change. Every era, every generation, you're always going to wonder, should I move to another city to make things happen for me? And that's one of those questions where it's hard to answer for you, because what you're likely looking for is not only community, but also inspiration. Do you think you'll be able to get inspired and find your community if you move? Will you be moving away from your community if you make that move? Can you maybe try things out and make friends in the city that you're interested in, and maybe go camp out for a week or two and hit up the open mics and start making friends and making those connections? I think that there is so many dives that you can make. You can put your foot in the kiddie pool and test the water by traveling there and doing an open mic. You can, get in the shallow end by going and spending a few weeks at a time, or you can jump all the way in the deep end and make a big move. There's going to be the pluses and the minuses from doing that, of the rebuild, of the expense, um, of if you get there, are you leaving behind a community that you've already been growing, or are you open to starting and kind of having this new growth trajectory as well? So I think that's just one of those tough questions to answer. I moved to New York. I was in Atlanta for some years, and then I moved to New York. I must say that leaving Dallas, in my case, was the best thing to happen for my career. I needed to be in another environment so that I could connect with new people, so that I could see the world outside of my local community. And then when I moved to New York, it wasn't to improve my career. It was honestly just a bucket list thing. And I could have stayed in Atlanta and continued probably the same path that I had in New York. So it really just depends on what the work and the investment you're willing to put in if you go to that city, and if you feel as though the city you're in can't feed you anymore. I think that's something that should really just keep in mind. I knew when I left that Dallas couldn't feed me in the way that I was looking to be fed, and it was the best move that I could have made.
Thank you so much. That helps.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I know it's only almost time up, Candace, but also I would just add, a lot of think the foreign exchange was started literally online. They was in different countries and found each other because of a love of something they had a commonality in. So sometimes if you see an artist you like or a collaboration you want to make, or you hear, but I think I do testing the waters in other cities is definitely a perfect idea. I wouldn't make the full jump. I don't recommend it. People have done it. It's just financially sometimes it's rough. And
Yeah.
you know.
And again, I use Fonte as an example because because he is one of the biggest names in hip hop. Like, even if he's not a household name to you, there's not a star in hip hop that doesn't know who Fonte is, because he's again, he's everybody's favorite rapper. Fonte never left North Carolina. He never left. He never moved away. And because he made a commitment. He loved the world that he built, and it's some really cool other rappers and MCs and producers. He never Ninth Wonder, who produced all of those hits for Jay-Z, part of the Little Brother story as well. Never left North Carolina. Now, it didn't mean they didn't spend time in New York. Didn't mean they didn't spend time in LA, but they never made a move. And so I think everybody kind of, their needs are different. Some people continue to get fed where they are, and then they can pull from those other places. And some other people feel as though, I think I need to move to find my tribe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And Haley, real quick, last question. I know Haley had the question in the chat here. She was saying, kind of going back to the previous question about how finding that support and that manager, you know, where else do you meet these people? And I think you had hinted on it before. I I think a lot of times there's a lot of people in your schools that are not want to be artists. There's a lot that want to be a part of your friends. I have friends right now that want to work. They think my company is doing all these big things. They want to say, "Let me just be an assistant." There's somebody in your, or if not, you can still find them. But I think, Carmen, you may want to speak to that more about how do you find that, because that management is a tough. It's a tough ask, because every artist have a different level of an idea of success, and
Yeah.
sometimes every artist don't need a manager at that moment. But can you speak to that, finding that more so? Right?
Yeah. And I think you were asking about, Haley, finding other singers, songwriters, musicians, producers, people who make music, or people who are looking to manage. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, she was looking for, she said, do you have any suggestions where you to meet those peers who can provide support? She said she found that most people would meet don't have the same synergy or looking for, or they also artists trying to do and look for their own team as well. So
Yeah, I would say go to where people love music too. And a lot of that happens in smaller venues at local shows. Every city that I'm aware of has smaller venues where there are kind of up and coming or, to middle tier artists that are using these venues where it's a 75 to 150 person venue. Those attract both artists and songwriters and singers and people that make music on a smaller scale, but it also attracts people that pay attention to artists who make music on a smaller scale. And a lot of times those are the rooms where you're going to find a person like an AD, because most people who are looking to manage and support artists are music lovers.
I literally found my artists I manage at those shows. No joke.
Yes.
That I want
Go to small venues, go to those shows, talk to audio engineers, both in live engineers as well as in studios. All of those places are breeding individuals that not only want to make music, but also want to support music makers. Because you want somebody who actually loves music. That's an important piece, not somebody that's just trying to get rich or trying to make money off you or trying to they want to be a star. These people usually actually enjoy the craft of artists that make, and they want to push that music forward. So go to those, check out those small venues.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Yeah, thank you so much for all your great questions. Carmen, thank you so much for your time. I know we're up in time. Shout out to the Grammy Museum and Live Out Loud with Candace and Skylar. But anything else that you want to add to that, Carmen, want to leave off with, anywhere they can find you and kind of can support you as well?
Thank you. Yes, you can find me. I'm probably most active on Instagram at Carmen Rodgers, CarmenRodgers. And then, if anybody on here has some music that you put out and you registered and you think is really cool, and you're just like, hey, maybe there's opportunities for my music to be placed in TV, hit me up at Carmen at hardcandy, HARDCANDIE.com. And, send me some of your music. I'd love to check it out and see if there's opportunities for me to pitch.
That's dope. That's dope.
Yeah.
And you don't always get that, by the way. You better get that email. Everybody don't give their email out. So that's good. That's good, Carmen. I know you.
Please drop that email in the chat.
Here, drop you getting it in there.
Hold on. I'll send it.
I can. I got it. Here I am.
This don't happen every day,
faster than
y'all. Just saying, this don't happen every day.
Let's see. Oh, what just happened? Okay, there we go. And that's to everyone.
Yeah.
Easy. Carmen at Hard Candy.
Well, thank you so much. I'll let you go take it over, Candace, but thank you again for another dope time moment. Carmen, thank you so much for answering the call for sure.
Absolutely. This was fun.
Thank you. This was wonderful. Carmen, thank you so much. I just enjoyed hearing all your stories, and your passion and energy exuded through the screen. So thank you. Very inspiring for this group here. And just really appreciate your time and look forward to having you again in the future. So other than that, Skylar and Anika signed off. So I think we're all good to go for today. And thank you all for having us.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank